I'd like to call the regularly scheduled board meeting. If the record please could reflect at 7:45. We apologize for the delay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Amen.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yonker.
Here.
Trustee Panito.
Here.
Trustee Berg. Here. Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Glotz.
Present.
Trustee Mangan.
Here.
And President Vandenberg. Excuse
Present.
me.
Thank you. Item number 1. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to consider approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Yonker, seconded by... Sorry?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. Item 2, at this time I'd ask for a motion to consider approval of the minutes of the special and regular village board meeting held on November 21, 2017. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Yonker. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3, at this time I'd ask for a motion to consider approval of the following consent agenda items.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Item A, consider request from the Herald Viking Lodge number 13 to conduct a Queen of Hearts raffle through December 4th, 2018, with the maximum value of the prize not to exceed $75,000. The winner will be drawn weekly at the Herald Viking Lodge number 13. Item B, consider request from VFW Post 2791 to conduct a Queen of Hearts raffle through December 4th, 2018, with the maximum value of the prize not to exceed $75,000. The winner will be drawn weekly at the VFW Post 2791. Item C, consider request from Misericordia to conduct a Tag Day fundraiser for their annual Jelly Belly Candy Days on Friday, April 27th, 2018, and Saturday, April 28th, 2018, at certain intersections in the village of Tinley Park. And lastly, item D, payment of outstanding bills in the amount of $1,249,616.84 as listed on the vendor board approval report dated November 22nd and December 1st, 2017.
Great, thank you, Clerk. Any board member would like to remove any of these items? The record reflect there is no removal. This is a roll call as well. Please call the roll.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Berg. Yes. Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Glotz.
Yes.
And Trustee Mangan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 4. At this time, I have the distinct honor to consider the appointment of Lucas Hawley to the chairman of the Sister Cities Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Mr. Hawley, who's seated in the front row, is currently a member of the Sister Cities Commission. This past summer, recently traveled to Germany, Deutschland, represented our town very well, and I believe he had a couple of meals with the mayor as well as some of their dignitaries as well. So we did have a resignation of the current chairman, Michael Hiss, and it was at his recommendation as well as mine that we go ahead and appoint Lucas to chairman. Thank you, Lucas. Is there any comments or questions from the board regarding this appointment?
I think you picked a fine person.
Here, here.
Congratulations.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Lucas. Service well. Thank you. Item 5, Trustee Glotz.
I'd like to make a motion to consider adopting ordinance number 2017-0-072, granting a special use for a substantial deviation of the Brookside Glen Plan Unit development to allow 4 residential structures with 36 dwelling units per structure, a clubhouse with outdoor swimming pool, and associated residential amenities with exceptions related to bulk regulations and floor area ratio.
Second.
Thanks,
Mike,
Brian.
before you proceed, just want everyone to be aware there is a recusal of my being, it's been on the village website for several months. So I just remind the board that I have abstained from this project since day 1 and that it's available online if there's any questions and advice. Go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
The petitioner, KJM Vandenberg Brookside joint venture, is seeking a special use permit for a substantial deviation from the Brookside Glen Plan Unit development and related exceptions to develop a 144-unit multifamily residential apartment project with associated amenities and clubhouse for the properties generally located west of Magnuson Lane and John Michael Drive. Plan Commission held a public hearing on November 2nd and voted 4-3 to approve the requested special use with exceptions related to the front yard setback, building height, and floor area ratio. The approval was conditioned upon the following. Number one, that the final landscape plan must be approved by the village's landscape architect and village staff prior to release of the building permit. Number two, that the petitioner provides amenities in accordance with the plans. And all proposed residential amenities must be completed prior to the issuance of final certificate of occupancy. And lastly, number four, the public improvements, sidewalk, lighting, street trees, and intersection improvements along Magnuson Lane toward 191st Street must be completed prior to the issuance of final certificate of occupancy. This ordinance is eligible for adoption.
All right, great, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board regarding this item? Any comments or questions from the public? This is up for adoption this evening. Yes, sir.
Hi.
Good evening.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I've been involved with this community group since the two-building project was proposed back in the summer. I've spent over 100 hours of my own personal time reviewing documents, meeting with people in the community, and I'm disturbed by the lack of information, missing information, and changing information throughout this process. What is sad is that any ambiguous zoning regulation or interpretation was made in the favor of the developer. It's not how the process is supposed to work. I'm also concerned about the future direction of Tinley Park. Of the surrounding communities of Frankfort, Mokina, and Orland Park, Tinley Park has the lowest percentage of owner-occupied housing units according to the U.S. Census. So we already have a higher percentage of rental units, but there are proposals for about 500 plus more units, apartment units in Tinley Park. I'm not saying anything bad about apartments because healthy cities need a mix of rental versus ownership, but what are you doing to bring in more condos, townhomes, and single-family homes? The supply of condos for sale has been declining since 2011 in Tinley Park. New construction townhomes in nearby Mokina and Frankfort sell very quickly, as well as existing townhomes in Brookside Glen. So it looks like if you want a new apartment, go to Tinley Park. If you want a new home, then go to New Lenox. Is that our new motto for Tinley Park? As far as I know, there's no strategic plan, and the comprehensive plan is 17 years old. So what guides your decisions on housing policy? Where are you taking Tinley Park in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Even the Plan Commission doesn't even know what's going on. At the hearing, they admitted they couldn't discuss the housing mix because they did not have any data. In Cary, Illinois tonight, they're talking about a proposed multifamily development with a townhome component. Back in November, the village told the developer to come back with a lower density proposal. It sounds like Cary officials listen to their citizens. Well, in Tinley Park, the revised project is bigger and taller than the previous one. The community really didn't get much from these negotiations. While the information supports demand for townhomes, condos, apparently the only thing we can build in Tinley Park is apartments. I really ask you to take a step back and think about the future direction of Tinley Park.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Like Brian and myself, we've been involved with this from day one since we got the, public hearing notices back in June. We all agreed something's going to be built there, but what? Okay. Subsequent to the Planning Commission, approving this project with a 4-3 vote, a couple of us met privately with Carly, and they basically agreed to lower the height of the buildings. We had questions about the height of the buildings, which the Planning Commission never even considered. They just went and voted, straight line approval for all the special uses that they requested. And what was said was, well, the elevation change between the condos on the east side and these apartments is different, so the height really won't make a difference. Well, the height does make a difference to us that live 200 feet away from this proposal. you know, what luxury apartment that they showed in staff's report has 14-foot ceilings? None of them do. The residents that are Orland Crossings, their height is 11 or 12 feet. 9350 or 9750, their heights are 10 and 11 feet. The condos are all on the east side by us are all 10 or 11 feet. So realistically, a 14-foot ceiling in a 12 by 12 room is going to be totally disproportionate to the size of the room. You know, it may sound good, it may look good, you know, on paper, but make a 12 by 12 box, which would probably be a typical bedroom in these apartments, and see what a 14-foot ceiling does to it. You know, Carly agreed to lower the height of the buildings up to 7 feet, but the Planning Commission didn't even listen to any of our arguments at that meeting. Commissioner Shaw, or Chairman Shaw, prodded the Planning Commission to sit there and ask questions. The only people that were asking questions at this Planning Commission meeting were Shaw and Croner. I don't believe the Planning Commission even read half of the stuff that was supplied to them. Otherwise, there would have been questions about it. You know, they had more questions for a 120 square foot Aldi sign than they did for a $30 million project. And the only reason Carly, group didn't bring this up before you at the first reading of this was because staff and I believe Mr. Connolly said they would have to go back before the Planning Commission. Well, I'm asking you, before you issue this special use permit, to lower the requirements. You know, they're not going higher, they want to go lower to work with the community. I sent all of you an email about this yesterday. I got one response. Second thing I sent the email about was a so-called fundraiser that the concerned citizens of Tinley Park held, and I believe one of the developers, was from this project was at that fundraiser. I won't have proof because the person, we know doesn't want to stand up and be heard about this because he has fears of repercussions on this. In January, we will have proof because the quarterly statements come out from the election. Is it the election board, Brian? Yes. From the election board. So if this is true, and that there was a donation made at this fundraiser, the whole board would have to recuse themselves because it would be a conflict of interest. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can I just address that question about me being at a fundraiser?
Well, yes, I mean, it's public, it's comment to the item, so. The comment should be geared towards the item issue.
Okay, I just wanted to address that really quick and just let you know that's completely untrue. I've never been to any sort of political fundraiser in my entire life, so thank you. And no one made a donation.
I believe the developer, Scott Annenberg, did make a donation to owner of the property back in January.
So your comment's already been duly noted. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you all contemplate a decision before you, just wanted to make it a matter of record that there has been concerns raised in regard to the impact that this development may have on property values. It was discussed in the last meeting, and it appears, unless there's been a study conducted by the village, that we are relying on the study paid for by the developer as to what the impact may or may not be. And it seems to me that this is a really big decision for Tinley Park. And to rely on a paid plan or a study just isn't in the best interest of the population of Tinley Park, and this should be looked at independently. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. There's no other questions or comments on item 5. I ask that the clerk call the roll, please. Pardon me, I'm sorry. Did you have something else to say, sir? Regarding item 5? Regarding item 5? You're welcome to step forward. Yes, sir.
Good evening. The first thing I have is county record of the land. The only thing you guys get right on the computer is this part. The land issue is you can't even tell how many acres that you're selling on the land. Here's county's information, 7.9 acres. It's all public record. You guys can't even get that right. It goes on to what we've been saying all the time. Nothing gets handled right. Next thing I have, 80th Avenue is getting so busy, it's insane. The road work that they got scheduled are 2 piddly jobs for next year. The bridge work that they talk about for 19 is questionable. I got off the phone with them today. 80th Avenue and Frankfurt Square is getting, St. Francis Road is getting made 4 lanes with the turning lane to 80th Avenue. So that's gonna push more traffic on 80th Avenue. It's a zoo out. Every morning it's backed up from 7:45, 10 minutes to 8, from 191st past the condos. Almost first, the path that you have to walk in is backed up I'm out there walking, I see it. Second thing I have, that the traffic, the fumes in the garage was talked about. There's no way it compares to the condo. The condos only have 17 cars. These have 170. There's no way they're gonna make from point A to point B without setting off the alarms, especially if you got 2 or 3 cars, you got somebody with a leaky exhaust or something. The next thing I have is the condos. The dimensions in the condos are all wrong. The height of the floors, there's no floor other than first floor that's even 10 feet. They're all lower. And how I compare the condos, I live in the condos. I'm halfway to the door. If I sit in my car 30 seconds, the alarms go off. And I'm not even driving 50 feet. So how far are they gonna drive when they gotta go from point A to all the way? Nobody's saying the distance that this can be. It's gonna be a problem. I hope, sound like you already got a paramedic problem. Carbon monoxide, you don't know when it's gonna happen. If you can figure that out, good luck. The 2 road projects, it's 1 mile that they're paving from 80th Avenue to 191st Street to the line. The other project's 191st Street to Route 45. So it's really not gonna do anything for us out there, but make more traffic. And I brought up before, the grocery store goes down across from Target. That's gonna be chaos. Oh, another thing they laugh, when the developer said when they built this, we might get tax relief. When I picked this paper up, I told them that, they laughed at me. They never heard a big complex going in that your taxes are gonna go down. That's all I got. That's it, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. There's nothing else regarding item 5. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
I wanted to ask Paula something.
Okay.
Paula, did we address the exhaust issue in the garage?
It's part of this normal construction methods. I don't know, maybe it's a difference in technology between when they were built and these, but obviously they have to be all standards, all those things.
In the
We're not to the point of having construction drawings.
in the traffic?
And the traffic regarding the short-term or long-term, there's a couple things that were being said, the St. Francis Road project probably will impact 191st, but that's a short-term issue. Long-term traffic, 80th Avenue is going through those improvements that will relieve some of these issues, plus the fact that we're gonna have another point of access on 191st should relieve some of the internal circulation issues.
Well, and his points brought up about Will County and the 80th Avenue Bridge and whatnot, those are legitimate. We are following that information, we are lobbying.
Yeah, but they told me that's on hold because their whole push is for Hobo Avenue. They need that, and so if the governor does not release the money, they would not tell me any 18 road projects because that's their main concern, because they got to have that. That's their money.
garbage cans, really.
How about the height? How about the height?
What about that?
If we,
We purposely increased the height to, as I've said over and over from the beginning, our job was to drive up the cost of this development in every way possible. From building materials to the architectural style, including the luxury aspect of loft ceilings and floored ceiling windows. All of that is at an expense to the developer. High cost, high price. That's what we're doing.
Nothing else? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
No.
Trustee Berg. No. Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Glatz.
yes.
Trustee Mangan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, Trustee Glatz.
I'd like to make a motion to consider adopting ordinance number 2017-0-070, granting a special use permit to allow for a recreational business, including group fitness class at 17708 Oak Park Avenue in the Neighborhood General Zoning District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The petitioner, Kiana Grant of Studio Q, requests a special use permit to allow a recreational business use, including group fitness classes at 17708 Oak Park Avenue in the Neighborhood General Zoning District. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on November 2nd, 2017, and voted unanimously 7-0 to recommend approval of the special use permit with the following conditions. 1, that sound shall not exceed 50 decibels when measured from outside the tenant space, exterior of the building, or within the adjacent tenant space. Sound shall not cause a nuisance to other tenant spaces or surrounding properties. The petitioner will be required to do soundproofing if there are valid complaints regarding noise. 2, bike parking for at least 2 bikes be provided at the site. This ordinance is eligible for adoption.
Thank you, Trustee Glatz. Any comments or questions from the board?
Are they just worried about noise of music?
Yeah, I think so. Some of the other tenants
And children.
Some of the other tenants in the strip mall had expressed some concern about it. I don't think it's going to be an issue whatsoever, but
Right.
It was brought forward to the Plan Commission, at least from what my barber is the one that told me that. So.
Oh, okay.
No other comments or questions? This is up for adoption. Anybody care to comment from the public regarding item 6? Let the record reflect there's nothing. Please call the roll.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Berg. Yes. Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Glatz.
Yes.
And Trustee Mangan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7, Trustee Berg.
I'd like to make a motion to consider adopting ordinance number 2017-0-074, amending certain sections of the Tinley Park Municipal Code by deleting Title III, Chapter 32, subsection 159, entitled Tinley Park Brand Leadership Subcommittee, and adding a new Title 3, Chapter 32, subsection 302, entitled Marketing and Branding Commission.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The branding action plan for the creation of an active brand leadership team made up of professionals representing hospitality-related businesses, the Chamber, Park District, schools, legislators, and residents. This group is tasked as the voice of the brand, working in a hands-on capacity as advocates for the brand vision and being instrumental in fulfilling the recommendations set forth in the branding plan itself. At the time the brand leadership team was created, it was structured as a subcommittee of the Main Street Commission. Staff has recommended that the brand leadership team be spun off into a standalone branding and marketing commission focused on assisting and increasing the local tax base and improving the quality of life in Tinley Park by supporting and expanding the village's music brand through the arts, culture, and events held within the village of Tinley Park, and also encouraging, assisting, informing, and making recommendations to the village board and staff on matters pertaining to the marketing of Tinley Park to its current and prospective residents, businesses, tourists, and visitors. This ordinance was discussed at the Economic Development and Marketing Committee October 24th and went back November 28th and is eligible for adoption.
Great, thank you, Trustee Berg. Any comments or questions from the board regarding item 7? I would just note that this was started, like you mentioned, several months ago. Was approached by several of the commissioners in the Main Street who were kind of wearing two hats with the branding and whatnot, and they advocated strongly for this. They want to put all their efforts into focusing on the brand leadership and the team building and what we're trying to do here in Tinley. So they advocated for it. We worked with Donna and her staff to try to, and Cindy, to get this into a form that would be the most counterintuitive and to see best that the leadership is brought forth. So thanks, Cindy, for getting this run through. That's all I have. Any comments from the public? This is up for adoption this evening. Let the record reflect there is none. Please call the roll.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mangan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Companion ordinance, pretty much. Item 8.
I'd like to make a motion to consider the following appointments for the Marketing and Branding Commission. The members.
Second.
Is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
Go ahead.
And the members included are Daniel Fitzgerald, Tinley Park Convention Center, Beth Fahey, Creative Cakes, Dennis Sugalich, Cousins, Julie Decker, Vogt Visual Arts Center, Jackie Bobbitt, Tinley Park Chamber of Commerce, Diane Galante, resident, Beth McKernan, resident, Jay Dam, resident, and there are associate members as well, Courtney Rourke from the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, Vince Aiello, Tinley Park High School Music Director, Jason Freeland, Central Middle School Music Director, Nick Haliakalis, Odyssey Country Club, Nick Markowitz, Third Coast Advertising, and finally Edward Manny, resident.
Very good. Any comments, questions from the board?
Just want to thank all these people for donating their time and energy to this cause. It's a lot of work and it's appreciated.
Absolutely.
Very good. Any comments from the public? Please call the roll.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mangan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 9, Trustee Brady.
I'd like to make a motion considering the adoption resolution 2017R052, approving a contract with R.C. Wegman for construction management and owner representative for the construction of Firehouse Station Number 2.
Is there a second? Call it again. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Discussion, per the discussion and approval of the request for qualifications that was discussed on the October 3rd, 2017 for construction management services for Fire Station Number 2. R.C. Wigman will act as a primary agent for the village, acting as the construction manager to ensure the coordination of all activities from the village standpoint, and will be required to properly execute the scope of work contained within the contract documents. The recommended finalization contract with cost tables for these procedures will be executed that define the construction manager's 4-phase scope of work and responsibilities throughout each phase of the construction process. Please note that until a guaranteed maximum price is established in the near future, actual construction cost will be presented for the board's approval prior to construction. Please consider discussing the awarding the contract with R.C. Wigman as the construction manager of Fire Station Number 2 remodeling project.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. I think there was a couple of questions that arose during the reading of the contract. I'll speak for myself, but I think I'd just like the attorney to opine or discuss a little bit, just give us his reasoning for why the language reads the way it does.
And thank you. Good evening, everybody. So I did receive a few questions, and good questions at that. And probably the main one was, and for everybody who reads along with the packet, you'll see this term GMP, guaranteed maximum price, and it's not in there. That's for a very simple reason. When you set up these GMP projects prior to selecting an architect and things like that, there's no plans, there's no construction drawings to base a guaranteed maximum price off of. So that process will happen in the near future. So the very simplistic way of kind of explaining how this will go, when you contract, if you're to approve this contract with Wegman, they'll help your staff, pick the architect, they'll sit in meetings, put together those specs, they'll work with them. Once you have an architect, they'll work with them on the drawings and things of that nature. When you have the drawings just about complete, they'll be able to give you a guaranteed maximum price. They'll look at the square footage, what you're going to draw, things like that. They'll take into account what you budget for this project, which is always a big point. When we get that number, that GMP, we'll be back here for this whole board. So you will see that guaranteed maximum price. You know, we can reject it. There's options at that point if you don't like the guaranteed maximum price. We'll be working hand in hand with Terry and his team over at Wegman to set up that GMP. So that's kind of the number one question. All those costs that some of you had asked about will be within the GMP. So, you know, so as we work through this phase, as you'll see in the contract, they've given you their rates when they're here for meetings, things like that. They'll bill you at their, you know, their rates similar to you know, most professional services contracts. But when we get to that construction phase and we're ready to build, you know, before we go on to that, this board will get the GMP. You'll get the document. A lot of work will go into that document, and that's what you will approve. So if you're not approving that now, doesn't mean you're writing a blank check. It comes back to you for approval. So I'd say that's the main question I've got from a number of you. It was an excellent question. I hope that explains it, that it will come back. And this is kind of the first step in this process. I've been working with your staff to you know, get going on an architect and get your plans drawn up after you go through your budget process and budget, you know, what you want for this project.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or questions regarding that? That cleared up my end of it. Very good. This is for awarding a contract. Any comments from the public regarding this item?
Yeah, is that paying the prevailing wage?
Yes, as most or everything that the village pays for in reference to services.
Well,
this would be under prevailing wage.
This isn't. This is professional service. This portion of it, the construction manager, is professional services, so it's well above prevailing wage. When we get to the point where we're ready to start bidding out concrete work and, you know, all the various work that goes into building something, all of that will have to follow, number one, all village bidding guidelines. You know, those aren't RFPs, on RFQs, those are bids. You know, lowest responsible bidder will get those jobs. And yes, of course, when on any expenditure of village funds for those types of projects that prevailing wage is required, prevailing wage will be paid and be part of the bid packages.
And the village does pass an ordinance every year for prevailing wage.
Sure,
correct?
absolutely.
So, does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Very good. If there's no other comments, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Yonker.
Abstain.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Glatz.
Yes.
Trustee Mangan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, prior to Trustee Brady reading this item, I'd like to read a letter dated December 5, 2017. This is titled to the village clerk, village board, village residents, to whom this may concern for the purposes of full disclosure and to avoid the appearance of impropriety. I would like the record to reflect that I, Jacob Vandenberg, recuse and abstain all voting in discussions referencing any and all private ambulance contract negotiations, particularly a private Tinley Park company, ATG Corp., which is Trace Ambulance. For the record, I have no financial interest in any part of said company, but want to keep a transparent line of communication amongst the board as well as the village residents. This is signed by myself, and as I stated, it was submitted to the clerk's office. So, Trustee Brady.
Okay, we'd like to have you subject to discuss ambulance contract extension and request for proposals. I'd like to make a motion per the direction of the village board on November 21st, 2017. Staff was instructed to explore request proposals for options for the ambulance contract. This, of course, was all discussed earlier in our public safety meeting that was held here at 7 o'clock. We had the options of number 1, RFP of current services, number 2, RFP of blended contracts and in-house services, and number 3, RFP contracted length 3, 4, 5 years with extensions. So consider discussing the ambulance services options.
So go ahead and make your motion to what was the direction that was given in committee.
Yeah, we took the recommendation of Pat Carr and his staff to do the RFP, blended contract and in-house services.
Okay, so that's your motion. Is there a second for that?
Wait.
well,
Certainly you're right to make that motion, but I thought the recommendation was for current services, and Pat was going to continue to look at blended.
Yeah. It's just a request for RFP right now.
Just go out for RFP.
Yes, that was the RFP, excuse me, I'm sorry.
so the motion is to,
Number one?
from number 1 on your agenda, which is RFP of current services.
Right.
Second.
Got a mixed.
So the current services, so we don't know how many years we're going to do it, or we're going to stick, current services going to be
Maybe
the 4
Pat
that
Carr
we
could
had?
discuss a little bit more.
Yeah, Trustee Glatz, what we'll do is, as we're putting together this proposal, we'll look at, the blended service and look at also the ALS certification of the fire department and try to include those components in the RFP. Give us an opportunity, if we do venture into that aspect of the EMS service, to allow us to, whether it reduce ambulances in that contract. So it'll give us an opportunity to explore both options. Regardless of what it will be, it will go in front of the Public Safety Committee again for discussion to further define what we want to do.
Thanks.
Very good.
Okay.
Is there a second for that motion then?
Second.
Is this a voice then? That's just for discussion, right? Just to give direction to staff to go out.
Direction, any
Is there
discussion
any further discussion on the motion that's been set forth? I think it was pretty clear by Pat. This will be
Yeah.
back before our Public Safety Committee. So in that regard, then I'd ask.
I just want to make it clear that it's not my intent, and I hope it's not this village board, to eliminate an ambulance. Whether the fire department becomes an ALS, that's to supplement the ambulance service and provide better service to the residents. Under no circumstance would I want to eliminate any ambulance from currently what we have. I just want to make that clear.
Agreed.
And can I say something too, since I didn't say anything in the Public Works? I just think going out to an RFP here is critical to be able to look at a lot of different components of this. There's a lot of angles on this thing that are 3.5 years old, and there's things that we can improve on going forward. And there's been some great ideas that have come out over the last few days of just talking about this, of ways we can improve this. Yes, cost is one thing. I'm not going to argue that cost isn't a piece of it, but it's a piece of it. And the other piece of it is there's opportunities to look at the staffing of each one of these ambulance companies, what they're paying, what the certifications of those individuals are, what we expect as a board on these certifications, and the staffing on an 8-hour, 24/7 type basis. So when we sit in this room, our responsibility and our fiscal responsibility as the trustees is to make sure we're getting the best product for the best price. And I think it's critical. I think Pat has a lot of experience at this. The contract that we put together this time around will be better than the contract that we did 3.5 years ago. And the opportunity is we have a say, at least as trustees, going into this contract on what we expect. And if we can improve it, if the chief decides that we can take a piece of the village and improve that within this contract, now we're building a new contract that has that in it. There's a huge value here we're missing. And I kept quiet during the Public Works piece, but I think it's critical that we all understand that there's a value that can come out of this. And it's for the betterment of the village. And let's not forget that. I mean, yes, the cost is one piece of it, but the other piece of it is what we can have happen at the end of it.
Pat,
Well said.
Well said.
Well said.
I have a question. Will the mayor's recusal, will that include, is that just voting, or is that discussion with any officials or the ambulance company?
In my letter that I just read, Trustee Glocks, it said voting and discussing.
Okay.
And it's in your inbox. It's emailed to the whole board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. So this is a voice vote this evening. All in favor for the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Thank you.
I have a question. How many different vendors are going to receive this out?
Hold on. There'll be an opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting, sir. Thank you. Item 11, receive comments from the board and staff. I'd just like to take a moment. This past weekend we had a absolute wonderful events that were put forth by our village that I think everyone in the community really enjoyed. So I just want to take a couple of minutes and congratulate all the people that kind of had a working hand in it. And I most likely will forget a few, but I apologize on the front end of it. Obviously, the marketing department and all of your staff, Donna, you did a nice job putting together all the events. Everything worked out very well, so congratulations to you and your staff. Our Public Works team, setup breakdown, it was perfect. I was walking back down the parade route on Sunday and seeing the guys bring all the barricades in. It's pretty amazing to see everybody work collaboratively. So hats off to you. All the volunteers, specifically the couple of the carolers that came out on tree lighting, had to work through a couple of glitches in the system, but they did a great job at that, and I just want to say thank you to them. All the vendors in the holiday market, it was a great little venue for people and residents to come through and walk through and see the products that they had, so thanks to them. And then most importantly, the community and all the residents, including the children of the various schools who participated in their music sing-alongs in the holiday market tent. So hats off to everyone for their role in it. It was a great event. We were blessed with some great weather, and look forward to next year. So.
Community Resource Commission also to put on the whole market.
CRC,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the Community Resource Commission, they did a great job there. I think that's all I got. Anybody else care from the board have any comments?
For me, being the first time through it and being involved in it, it was unbelievable. I thought the turnout was fantastic. To be put on an event like that, both on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was pretty impressed. The Festival of Lights was a really great experience. So.
You forgot, Mike, the 60-degree weather on a...
Yeah. That makes a big difference.
Go ahead, Kristen. You can go first.
Oh, thanks. No, I just wanted to mention, too, that I also enjoyed spending some time at the Tinley Park Historical Society and getting to know Patricia and Ed Seamson. They showed me around, and they told me about a couple Facebook groups that citizens might be interested in. The first one being Follow the Flag of Tinley Park as it travels the world. Currently, you can watch Treasurer Brad Bettenhausen as he travels through India. He's been to a few interesting sites with the Tinley Park flag already. And I also met Mr. Phil Pursley, who has a Facebook group called Tinley Park. You know you're from there when you know its history. Always has really interesting content there as well. I'd like to encourage residents to visit the Historical Society. I know I'll be going back to spend more time. They have a lot of cool items that you can actually get hands-on with. They're open the first Sunday of every month from 1 to 3 and the second Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. So, lastly, the state of Illinois celebrated its 200th birthday on December 3rd. And we have received our bicentennial flag from the states, currently displayed here in council chambers.
Thank you, Vanna.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk Cadet. And it will be flown underneath the state flag in short time. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk.
Yeah. I just want to say, as far as the transparency goes, if there's questions being asked by the residents, I think we need to do one of a couple things. One, if you know the answer, we should be answering the questions. This shouldn't just be a public comment. If you have the answer, I think we should provide the answer. If you don't have the answer, I think we should have staff get the answer instead of emailing one person. Come to the next board meeting and give Tinley Park the answer for everyone, and except, just one individual. So that's my comment.
I don't foresee that to be an issue, bringing that up at a cow and working through it. Fine with that. So maybe Pat, you and Dave could work through that and get something here maybe in the first quarter. Very good.
Just the last thing, Mr. Mayor, my Boy Scout Troop 911 is the 5th year in the holiday market, and they provided, this year we provided, as past years, bonfire for everybody to warm up, which we really didn't need this year. But normally, last year with the snowstorm, they all enjoyed it, and we gave away free hot chocolate to anybody that wanted to have a sip of it as well. So I want to thank my Boy Scout Troop 911. That's chartered by the Tinley Park Police Department. So I want to thank my boys and the leaders that were there.
Great. Item 12, receive comments from the public. Chairman Holly?
Just a few comments I want to say. First off, the Christmas market was great. was really nice to kind of go into the marketplace and have it be so packed and have it be so full to the point that you could kind of barely get through. So it's nice to know it was well attended. The tree looks great. I know that it looks very stable, and that's not going to tip on over. And I know that there was some concern earlier from people that downtown wasn't decorated before like December 1st, but I'm glad you guys waited till after Thanksgiving. I have a question for the clerk's department, I guess, maybe. Do you guys know if the Tinley Park Christmas ornament is in yet?
I'm supposed to come in this week.
Okay, cool. Now I was just curious myself.
Yeah, I checked right before the meeting.
Okay. And I just want to thank you guys for appointing me as chairman. I'm very thankful that Chairman Hiss recommended me. I've been on the commission for 4 years, and we're really starting to get things going. I know we got a great team. We got one of our other commissioners here, Jim, and me and him both have been to Bootigan, and he's also been to Mallow, Ireland, too, our other sister city. So he's been all over the place. And it's really nice that we've got people on the commission who have got a strong bond with people inside Bootigan, Germany, which kind of makes the whole exchanging of culture a lot more easier, and that's really appreciative. And also, I want to thank Rob for being our liaison. Does a great job. Any questions we have that need to go to Mr. Conley or anywhere inside the village, he does a fantastic job. And just again, thank you guys, and I will work my hardest and do the best that I can do.
You had a comment earlier, or did you care to? All right, very good.
I know he had a question, but if he doesn't want to go, I'll go. It's cool. I wanted to comment earlier, but I guess we'd already passed the comment part when we were talking on Brookside Glen in regards to we're going to make the 14-foot because that'll increase the rents. You did that intentionally. I disagree with that in general on economic principle. I understand everybody wants like a more affluent or whatever renter, but there's this thing called market economics and supply and demand. And you know, if I go and make an apartment complex and I say, yeah, I'm going to charge $2,400 because, yeah, I want super high rents, that doesn't mean they're going to come. That's arrogant. You know, what does Tinley Park bear out? That's what you guys have to ask yourselves. Do you really think, you know, just because, oh, well, we'll let them build a 14-foot, you know, floor to ceiling, that doesn't mean they're going to come. You know, I hope they do. I hope, you know, that they have, you know, now that we're committed to this whole apartment thing, I hope a whole bunch of them show up. I'm going to say, quite frankly, the outlook is not good because I don't think the market's there. But that's just me. I'm thinking if you got the money, you're going to go rent in Chicago or somewhere, not here. Especially when you're not even by a train. But, you know, again, I'm not the one renting. But, you know, what, you're going to go, no one's going to walk across 80th Avenue to the train station there. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So, you know, you asking for these things, it doesn't make it so, and that's what's so frustrating because, you know, it goes back to the TIFs too. It's like, you know, oh, okay, well, we're going to give all these giveaways to, you know, South Street or whatever, and, you know, they could say like, oh, this is their luxury. Well, guess what? You can say it's luxury. Guess what? There's everyone else has luxury too. And it doesn't mean that they're going to come. So I really hope these things succeed just for the sake that, you know, I want Tinley Park to succeed. But I think it's just to say, oh, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to try and artificially jack up the price. That's not the call, in my opinion, of the Planning Commission or the Planning Department, whatever they call it these days. You know, I think that's just not the province of, you know, a local government or any government for that matter. But certainly not a local government to try and jack up rents. That's not your guys' decision. That's the decision of the market. So one quick follow-up, and I know that we can't ask questions, but I'm just going to make kind of like broad statements that you can interpret as a question. So everybody's all excited about the license plate readers as Tinley Park starts to devolve into a police state here. My question is, just throwing it out there, because I know no one's got an answer yet, but I will expect an answer in 2 weeks' time as to who has access to this information and how it's secured, because I do not want this information falling into the wrong hands. You know, I think, quite frankly, license plate readers are a violation of the Fourth Amendment. But if we're stuck with them because certain residents want to turn Tinley Park, you know, no borderline police state, we should at least have some type of security on where this information is being stored. Thank you.
I'm certain that that question could be answered as well, Mr. Paz. I'm sure that they're working through it.
Yeah, I'll give you that 2 weeks answer.
Thank you. If there's no other questions, I would make a motion.
One of our other residents came up with something, you know, after the vote, you know, and it seems like, excuse me, I have to get her text up here. You know, all through this process, you know, even after the Planning Commission met for, and you guys voted it down the first time, we met with Paula and a couple of the trustees and the developer on this project. We decided, you know, we liked the 4-project plan best. You know, we all agreed, you know, what's best for the community. However, when we were discussing these plans, nothing was ever brought up about height. Otherwise, we would have been strongly opposed to it at that time. When we were meeting with staff and Glatz and Mangan at these meetings. All of a sudden, at the Planning Commission, it's thrown out there. Where's the transparency with staff at that point? Okay? And it seems like, you know, all Paul says her job is to drive up the price of the development. Not once does she think of the community. She needs a new job. Thank you.
I like to, Mike, comment on that. I don't think that's very fair to Paula. She puts her heart and soul into every project that we have, and driving up the price is actually helping the community, in my opinion. You know, I'm not a professional. I don't do this for a living, but the work that she does for this village, Mike, I'd have to disagree with you. That's disrespectful. She deserves kudos for what she does. She's a hardworking employee. Sorry, I'd have to disagree with you.
Wasn't my comment.
I'd like to make a comment on that. I'd like to make a comment on that too. Being involved in the process all the way through, I think there's a value for the buildings that they're building. And I think they're beautiful buildings, and they have a lot of amenities that I think are critical for the success. These developers are building buildings that I think are going to be very nice. And I think the key element to that is that has a lot to do with the combination of a lot of people in this room. People from Brookside Glen, people from the staff, the developers. I think there was a lot of positive camaraderie that went on with many of the meetings that we had. And I thought there was a lot of good things that came out of those meetings. Changes were made. Discussions were in every meeting regarding it. And I thought the end result is, and why I voted yes for it, because I think the buildings are beautiful buildings that are going to be built there.
At the help of Paula.
Thank you.
One comment I made and I brought up, they can lower the buildings, the only thing they gotta do is dig down and they can shorten them up. I brought that up, but nobody seems like they wanna dig. They can lower them that way by digging.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go.
Good evening, trustees. Just a couple quick comments. Jake, whether or not you answer this is up to you. Just wondering if you would disavow or disapprove of what's happening to private citizens who are being forced to depose themselves. You know, we ran on a ticket of transparency in this village. I mean, I myself, being here 14 years, discovered a lot of stuff previously that happened, probably wasn't done on the up and up, and I was hoping that as you guys are sitting in these seats that you have the influence and power to make changes for the positive part of it. And I feel as if maybe some of the interactions that are happening with our private citizens on behalf of certain people is probably not the best way of approaching certain things, and I think in the spirit of camaraderie for the village, probably not the best. And that's my question, is if you disavow or do you agree with what's going on?
I think anytime anybody's sued or any type of litigation in that realm, whether it be private citizens, staff, trustees, I mean, of course, it's not a pleasant day for anyone, so
okay.
I think it's fair to say.
All right, and then I just want to say congratulations on becoming the sole proprietary of the Vandenberg Funeral Home there on, I believe it's Harlem Avenue. And I was just curious when that was completed.
I'm not gonna comment to you about my private life.
That was a public transaction.
Then feel free to pull the public transaction deed.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for that answer.
You're welcome. I'll continue to serve the community. If there's no other comments from the public, I'd ask for motion to adjourn.
Nice try.
That's the point of trying.
Okay. Since your choice of the person who was offered allegedly numerous village positions is behind the lawsuits being filed against not only trustees but also residents of this community, do you feel that maybe your PAC or you personally should contribute to the fund to help pay their legal fees? You brought it to us. Maybe you can help get us out of it. Okay. And I was going to ask Mr. Niemeyer and Mr. Bettenhausen, but since neither one of them are here, and I'm not sure if Mr. Workowski was part of it, but earlier this year, I questioned why we are supplying services to Odyssey in regards to snow plowing, streets, and lighting. And there was supposed to be a meeting taking place at some point during this year, and I was supposed to be told what the results were, but I've not heard word one. Are we going to be doing this again this year? Are we plowing that gated community again this year?
Yes, as far as I know, we are.
Why?
Kevin, I'd like for continuity here, I think, and I hope that you could respect this. If you'd like a detailed answer, Mr. Workowski and the staff will get it to you. I mean, to call upon the staff to respond without having any documentation from him, quite honestly, isn't responsible.
Did the meeting ever take place? You were supposed to be meeting with the developer.
There were meetings that took place amongst the HOA and the proprietors of Odyssey. I do know that it was being talked amongst the residents who live in Odyssey as well as the owners of Odyssey. And that's as far as I know. I know Mr. Yonker.
There's been meetings, and we could get you that information. I'll Pat Carr get it over to you.
When?
I'm not even sure. He wasn't on the meetings. When Mr. Niemeyer gets back, I will talk to him and I'll make sure.
When's he due back?
I'm not quite sure. I don't have a schedule.
I'll get it to you next week.
When's Mr. Niemeyer due back?
He's back Thursday.
Then I should have it by Friday? It's reasonable. I've been waiting almost a year to get the information, and I'm still appalled that we are paying to do a private community. We do not have the ability to drive or walk into that community, and our tax dollars are paying for this. They're paying HOA fees. They should be doing it on their own, not on Tinley Park's dime. So when is this going to stop? When in the world is this going to stop, that you're just going to keep giving services away to select people, and yet you keep ramrodding everything else down everyone else's throats?
Thank you.
Is it happening? And I'm not sure how you pick and choose who you answer, because it seems like certain people come up here and we can't get our answers, and other people we answer every time. And just to point out, I'm not sure how that's working out, but it doesn't sit right with me. I was attacked in this room physically, and I've been attacked on Facebook. I've been mentioned in lawsuits, all because I've come here, started to be reaching out to you guys for help, because I thought that's what we do. And I certainly hope that some kind of assistance is coming back to us. Who do we go to above this level, is my question. If somebody can answer me, who do I reach out to when I don't feel that my board here is hearing me? How much do I have to put up with? How am I going to be in the next lawsuit because I'm speaking up, trying to make a difference here? I feel warned in this lawsuit. My friends are in this lawsuit. I do not attack people. I don't attack your personal people. I don't think anybody here can ever say that I went after anybody personally. I'm asking.
Mr. Paulus.
I'm asking for help.
Please.
Because I didn't press charges against the person that attacked me in this room, or came into my I'm at my, thank you, my personal space. I didn't do that, but I could have. But I want to know, you're not hearing us. Who do we reach out to?
Ms. Galante, I mean, to beginning with, when your comment to begin with, when it comes to picking and choosing who's getting questions answered and who's not, I mean, that's not how I'm deeming question and answer, first of all. So.
No, but you're seriously, you're answering some people when they come up here, right away you guys answer them. And when I come up here, I have to look at blank stares. Do you think that's comfortable for me? It's like you're making me uncomfortable, so you stop asking.
It's the complexity of the questions. I mean, I read your email when it came to this. I read through it. And again, Mr. Glotz brought it up this evening. I think it's something that we're going to need to discuss as a board.
Did anybody respond to my email? Are you talking about the email?
Your email, yeah, the email that you
I
sent
didn't
to the
get a
board.
response to?
I read through it.
Oh, okay. It would be helpful if somebody would respond, except Kristen, you did respond, thank you. But
you say that nobody's listening to, and I guess, I mean, there's confusion that crosses my mind when you say that, because, you know, we've listened to everything that you've stated. We've taken action in some of the public safety areas that you've brought forward. We feel the same issues. We live here too. I don't understand how you think that we're sit up here and we're not listening just because you're not getting a respectful answer right away. I'm having a difficult time with that because, you know, it's been discussed for months now, the cameras, and yes, you've come forward and asked what's the status with the cameras.
I didn't ask for cameras, just so you know. That wasn't me.
I mean, I'm not saying that you asked for it. I'm just saying that in general, it's been advocated for, okay? And it's something that we've worked towards. And I feel comfortable saying that I think that, you know, I disagree with Mr. Paz. I don't think there's an issue there with our amendments. You know, as long as it's not being abused, I don't think there's any issue with that. If it's deterring criminal activity and the chief and the rest of the police department could discuss that, I'm sure these are tools that we could use. This board listened, and I commend the committee and the board members for moving it forward. I mean, I don't know.
No, I appreciate that, but just so you know, that wasn't I was asking for the police. I was asking for action and from the experience that I was in that day.
And that's a great point, because then the police staffing study came up, and that was brought forward by the chief and moved by the committee, and it was discussed.
But do you think we feel comfortable that that we have to do these studies? I don't even understand why we're doing the studies. Why we're doing a study on I would expect that a police chief would take control of that and would know what our staffing should be.
Sometimes there are biased opinions. When you work in an organization, you feel comfortable with what you have. So it's nice to have a third set of eyes on something. You know, I mean, in my business, that's how I run it as well. Sometimes there's things that you just need third party to just come in and look at. Hey, am I doing things wrong or doing things great? I don't know. You know, and I sat through the police staffing study. I was questioned. I gave them my opinions on things. I don't know if any of the board members sat through that. I'm aware of the police department, the different departments that they have are being sat through some of these interviews. You know, it's important stuff. And don't think for 1 second, none of us, we're not sitting here nodding our heads in disagreement with you on things. I mean, we are listening to you. And unfortunately, it doesn't just happen like that. I mean, I wish things did, but it doesn't. I think we all need to understand that. And we'll continue to work towards these, you know, these goals, objectives, things that we set forth, these agendas, items that we give to the staff. We're going to continue working towards them. They're done in committee and they're brought to this board. And I disagree with you if you think that it's not happening that way.
Just so you understand, it wasn't that you're not responding to that. I'm talking when I come up here and I ask you a simple question. And I know you know the answers because somebody will run out after me and tell me what the answer is. But you choose just to stare at me. But in other cases, people come up here and ask the question, and somebody responds right away to them. That is what I meant when I asked that question. Either, what is the rules? I mean, that was my question to you guys. I'm so confused coming up here. Sometimes you'll answer, sometimes you won't.
The rule is pretty standard.
No, I understand that now. That was just
for the Open Meetings Act, and when you throw your hands up, it's public comment. It's comment. You make a comment to this board. So if you'd like us to set forth a set of policies and procedures, as Mr. Glotz recommended, we're going to bring that before Committee of the Whole. Suggestions, we'll have open comment. You guys feel free to throw comments in there, just like the 4-minute rule. You know, there was a lot of discussion about all that. That we're going to do that. I mean, if we'd like to have procedures in place for it so that there's, you know, nonpartisan, unbiased issues, we are certainly open to it. But I mean, and I feel comfortable saying that on behalf of the board. Because I don't think anybody up here sits here and doesn't want to answer your questions. That's not what we're here for. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to be your mouthpiece. We're here to speak for you and do our best. So. And I probably took a lot of your time, and I'll yield the rest of my time back to you.
That was all I was saying.
Thank you.
Speaking of the police study, is it back yet, or any?
It's in process.
Isn't it this month when it was supposed to be back?
It's being done right now. It's in process.
Okay.
12-week.
Oh, okay, okay. What is the status of South Street?
We have to discuss that.
Are you at liberty to discuss it? Yeah, sure.
You want me to?
Mike, why don't you go ahead and discuss it?
So we have met with the developers for LaSalle Street on a lot of occasions. Our game plan with it was to initially talk about the incentive plan that was going to be involved there. As of last week, we had a final meeting with them on, was it Wednesday, Pat?
Yes.
Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving, and we could not come to an agreement on the incentive plan that they wanted. A lot of us just felt that what they were asking for was just too much. So right now, we have gone back to them. We gave them what we considered was a proposal that we could agree with, and it wasn't not agreed to. So that's where we're at.
So no South Street development?
Well, not based on what they want out of the village, no.
Okay. Who was meeting? I think it's Mr. Hansen, right? Who was leading the meetings with Mr. Hansen?
I think we had a team of people that were in each meeting.
We separated the discussions into a financial, and then after the financial discussions of the incentive, it would be brought into the community development sector, so that we didn't waste everyone's time going through planning to ultimately not get to an incentive agreement. So to answer your question, it was led by village staff, which was Dave Niemeyer, Patrick Hoban, village attorney was present, the chairman of finance, Mike Mangan, and myself. And it was with the developer, Mr. Bob Hansen, and his partners, Joe Rizza and Dan McNeilin.
So it never got past the financial stage? Obviously, never even went to community development?
The arguments, Ms. O'Connor, were that an agreement was made 10 years ago, sometime, I think it was 10 years ago, amongst the previous administration and the developer. And the cost difference that we were able to come to in reference to what we thought would be acceptable, first to pass the board, but ultimately to pass the community, because it is an incentive that we wanted to give them a best and final offer of what we thought would be a very acceptable number. And we were off by, if my memory serves me correct, almost $2 million or $2.5 million. So, am I not correct on that number?
I don't have it in front of me.
I mean, that's I'm just saying, I think that, I mean, from my recollection, that's.
There was a gap. I don't know.
There was a significant gap.
So all the infrastructure that we already did as far as the Freedom Pond and everything else is for naught?
Well, of course not, because that affects the entire downtown, not just specific development.
Right, but that had to be done specifically if South Street was going to be developed.
South Street will still be developed, because I'm certain it'll be sold off to somebody. I mean, we're not going to, I mean, again, here's the problem with the question and answer part. I mean, you could certainly submit these questions in writing to the in email form. You can come up here and discuss it with the village manager. I'm sure he'd be just as available to sit down and talk to you about it. You could certainly call myself, Mike, anybody on the board who has information on it. We could talk to you about it. I don't see the purpose of sitting here for 4 minutes and talking back and forth about a project that's dead in the water at this point.
Well, this is news to me, and sorry it bothers you so much that people want to know what's going on in our village. That was really an ignorant answer.
Thank you.
Disconnected first.
Is there any other comments?
I have one more, Mayor.
Okay.
We're almost getting to the 40-minute mark. What time did we start?
No, we're over 40. It was 8:05.
So you guys will agree to it? I've asked for 5 months, 5 months to bring that. Take this nonsense.
We don't have, is that in the code, 40 minute the maximum? John, are you plugged back in? Before the speaker comes forward, I would just note that at this point we are reached our maximum. We'll allow you to speak, but after this will be the last comment. Our maximum allotted time for public comment, I believe, is 45 minutes, and we've passed that.
Okay, I just had 2 quick comments. So I just want to thank Mike, and Patrick for all your help throughout this process. The Brookside Glen certainly didn't agree with all the answers that we got, but we do appreciate you guys taking all the time that you guys did to answer our questions, help work us through, and I think you guys saw that in that packet of information that you got today. There was tons of questions answered. A lot of our hard work went into that packet. So thank you again, guys. And I did want to say Paula does work extremely hard. It was unfair comment from Mr. Stockloose today. You do not need a new job. You definitely work hard for Tinley Park. I know I don't agree with every answer you ever give me, but I do know you have Tinley Park as a whole in the back of your mind all the time, and you're working for us. Thank you, Paula.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. With that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good night.